Hey everyone, happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of Black USA Crypto News. My name is Kamal Hubbard, and what a week it has been. Oh my God, so much good stuff going on. Crypto never sleeps. You guys know this. So, well, before I get started, I want to talk to you all about all the great shows and content going on here at blackusa.news. Of course, Donnie Glover, you got to check out the Donnie Glover morning show most weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. So, it's just that, a morning show. He talks to a lot of guests, a lot of stuff going on, local politics, local business in the Baltimore, D.C. area, Maryland area. So check him out. He's always got great content. Of course, Sister Biz with Nicole and Tamara. They are always putting out great shows, great comments, or great shows, great content, and always having great guests as well. Last but certainly not least is Doug Blacksher with the Black Business Roundtable out of Oakland, California. So he's talking to, once again, small Black businesses, talking about politics, talking about unions, a lot of great stuff that's going on, once again, politically and business-wise here in the Bay Area. So be sure to check him out every Thursday from 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And Saturday morning, Tasmira Gathers has a show called The Blackout. How about that? And I'm really looking forward to checking out more of her stuff. She's coming to us from New York City. So can't wait to, once again, see some more of her shows and some more of her stuff. Last week was pretty interesting. Talked about that TikTok talent strike that's going on. So, hey, that just goes to show, the power of Black creators. We're going to talk about that a little bit more today with my guest, who I'll bring in just a few minutes here. But before I do, I wanted to talk to you all about the Cage Chain newsletter. So Cage Chain is one of the longest running crypto, blockchain, DeFi, NFT newsletters out there. It's been going on for quite some time. It's free. It's a midweek resource for people trying to stay up to date on what's going on in crypto, DeFi, NFTs, blockchain. So, of course, you can go there, check out some of the old shows. And one of the top stories for this week. Last week, we talked about the Portland Trailblazers partnering with StormX to be their blockchain partner. Now, the Boston Celtics have partnered with Socios.com. So that's we're starting to see more of these blockchain crypto crossovers into sports. As you can see, another story about the SEC. They want to apply investor protections into crypto. Don't see why they wouldn't. And that makes a lot of sense. They're still working on a lot of those old ICO fraud cases from 2017. So they're just doing their job, which is a great thing. And, we got a few other stories this week, but kind of going back and piggybacking off of these blockchain sports partnerships that are coming, that we're starting to see more and more. There was, of course, another very big partnership this week that, is definitely worth mentioning. And that is the one with the UFC. The UFC and Crypto.com, they are in a partnership for, I don't know how long the deal is, but I know how much it's for. It's for $175 million. And that seems to be one of the biggest, well, that's the UFC's to date, their biggest partnership that they have going on, biggest sponsorship deal that they have going on. And that is great. Hopefully some of that money trickles down to the fighters who, you know, they put their lives on the line for this stuff, for our entertainment. So let's just hope some of that $175 million once again trickles down to the fighters. But we'll see. We'll see. You know, the next thing I just want to share with you guys really quickly is my book, DeFi for the Diaspora. So you can check it out on my website, KamalRHubbard.com. You can pick up the book, and goes through the future of money, decentralized finance, why we as a community can use it, not just here in the United States, but globally, to fight the historical discrimination that has been lodged against us throughout time, right? Here we can create a parallel system that is equitable and sustainable. So, you know, I can talk about obviously this all day long, but what's most important is you guys pick up the book, check it out. You can also feel free to contact me too. Just hit my contact page. You know, I've been talking quite a while now about getting a webinar together where I talk a little bit about DeFi and just talk to people. So it could be a little bit more interactive, a more interactive Q&A. So feel free to check out my contact form. Now, at this moment, what I would like to do is introduce my guest. He is always on time, never hard to find, and he goes by the name of Jake. Hey, Jake, can you hear me?
I surely can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks for joining the show. So glad to have you on. You know, I wanted to first give a quick introduction of who you are. You are a DJ and a producer, and you know, you're out of the San Francisco Bay Area as well. You know, you have a diverse and eclectic style that transcends most genres, and you're currently focused on your burning passion for techno music, or should I say EDM?
Techno's better.
Okay. That was something I was going to ask you about, and I'll get to that maybe in a minute. And just a little bit more on your bio is listening to a J-Kind mix is inevitably a deep journey through various moods, and listeners are guaranteed a thrilling exploration of various emotions set to relentless stomping and oftentimes funky beats. We love those funky beats. And whether or not it's a deep, introspective, jazzy, urgent, or imperative, your neck is guaranteed to move to the beat once J-Kind works the dance floor into a frenzy with a bottomless crate of jewels that you always seem to have at every one of your shows. So, you know, I want to actually put that up against what happened, or just a quick scene from one of your shows. So I'm going to let this go. You know, I think that might have been on my end why I was a little jumpy, but that was you in Seattle. So tell me about a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about your music, and where you get to go to perform.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure and it's an honor. Good to see you again. It's been a minute. So a little bit about myself. As you said, I'm a DJ producer. I've been a musician pretty much all my life. I started getting into music at the age of 5, playing piano, and then at the age of 6, playing drums. My family was very musical. Both of my parents played instruments. My brother played the violin. So that was my introduction to music. Mostly at a young age with piano lessons, it was all classical music. For 8 years, I took classical music piano lessons. But my dad was heavily into funk and jazz, so I would listen to those records. And I think as the years went by, I went through different genres of, rock and roll, hip hop, rap, through the 80s, 90s and everything, metal even. And then when I moved to California in 1999, 2000, I started touring around the Bay Area as a drummer for a blues rock band, and then discovered, these raves, these parties and stuff. And so I found myself just watching the DJ the entire time. Like, I'd go and all my friends would be dancing around. I'm just like right up there in front. I'm like watching this guy. You know what? He's got 2 records and a mixer, and I can totally do that. So I went and bought a mixer, bought some records and turntables, and hopped right on. And it just came to me. Like, my friends were like, "Wow, didn't know you could DJ. Like, when did you learn?" I just know. I've been watching, and I think because I was a drummer, or I've been a drummer, that my sense of rhythm just really helped kind of, match the beats and everything. So I just took off with that. Had some pretty major influences from Detroit, Chicago, and in the Bay Area, of course, as well. But kind of really identified with that Detroit sound, and just kind of went with that. DJed tons of parties in the Bay Area and beyond, LA, Seattle, like you saw. I've played in Europe before. I've even played in Russia before. So, I've been pretty much all over. And just having fun with it, man. I've also been part of a Burning Man crew called Airpusher since 2014. And so we have an art car that we take out to the playa when Burning Man happens. And so it's been a pleasure being part of that organization. I served on the board for a while. That's been great. A great avenue of getting my music out there into the communities, and exploring that. So yeah, that's my history as a DJ producer.
Awesome. I got to ask you, and I don't know how much of our audience is actually acquainted with Burning Man. Can you talk about what Burning Man is and what the appeal is? I know a lot of people in crypto are huge fans of Burning Man. So if you could tell me a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. Burning Man was, it originated from a guy that was going through a breakup or something, and he wanted to pretty much get rid of all of his memories of that breakup. So he took all of his possessions and stuff out on the beach and burned it. Right. And that was symbolic of rebirth, of letting go of that and moving on. And so he made kind of a mini festival out of that, and it turned into what it is now. But the pull for me really is that, I've been to a lot of parties and a lot of festivals and whatnot. There's a difference with Burning Man because it's not centered on like all these vendors and, big name companies and corporations. It's more about the community. And particularly it's about what can you bring, what can you give to the community, right? And when everybody comes with that mindset, a spirit of giving, you're giving your music, you're giving, some kind of food item, some kind of drink item, or you make some kind of art, right? And so everybody that attends has something that they want to contribute. And so you have this huge city of thousands, tens of thousands of people that have brought something to contribute. And you can participate in this spirit and this energy of a community that's really centered on giving. And that creates a really unique energy that you're not going to get, that I haven't seen from other parties and organizations. And that's what, generally people give a lot of art, whether that's, physical art cars, some kind of, weird, statues and lights, or music. And in my case, it's music. All right. And so, it's an amazing experience. It's a really amazing experience. I haven't been to anything like it, and I highly recommend it.
I'm thinking about it. It definitely it definitely seems cool. I mean, I've obviously seen plenty of pictures. I've talked to dozens of people who have gone and shared their experiences as well. So, it's definitely, like you said, it seems to be like that spirit of community is definitely present at that festival. So I think that's very cool. And, we obviously just, I would say, as a humanity could kind of take a page out of that playbook. But, well, kind of getting back to, I kind of was talking or describing your music, and you describe it as techno, and I said EDM. So can you kind of break down maybe the difference in or how those two are distinguished from one another?
Absolutely. And, I think a lot of people's definitions and descriptions of this will vary. But from my standpoint, when somebody says EDM, that's more representative of the more commercialized electronic music that you'll hear at these mega festivals. And like when you look at, the top 10 DJs in the world, most of those guys and gals are going to be, from the EDM circuit, where, they have shows in Vegas. They headline at Tomorrowland and all these, major festivals. They get radio play. You can hear remixes of theirs on the radio, that kind of thing. Whereas techno, the techno that I play, is more from the underground scene, and it's more from DJs that not everybody's heard of, because you're not going to hear them on the radio. Maybe the most popular one that people are familiar with is actually Carl Cox. He's a black DJ from, I always get it mixed up. I can't remember. I think he's from the UK. Yeah, he lives in Australia, but he's from the UK. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought he was UK based.
Yeah, absolutely. So that scene is a little independent from the mainstream. The sound of the music is different. It's edgier, it's grittier, it's raw. It's not fluffy. It's like, sometimes it can be, right? It can be very happy and melodic and all that. But the style of it is a bit, like I said, grittier, raw, more sounds. It's not going to appeal to the masses in the sense of, oh, I just want something I can sing along with, right? Like a lot of techno doesn't even have lyrics. So I think that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I could have a discussion. I mean, I think, you're probably the best person to have that discussion with. I mean, because you talked about Detroit and Chicago. Chicago has a pretty well-defined house scene, correct? Or
yes.
Am I off by that? And I mean, maybe if you could also give people the difference between house and techno. Like, I mean, I think I know, but you're probably a better person to ask.
Sure. House. Basically, the difference is the BPM, the speed of it. House is, that's one of the major differentiators. House is generally between 118 and 124 BPM, and it's more laid back, soulful. It can be jazzy. It can be more lyric oriented at times, depending on the style. Like there's different subgenres of house too. There's funky house, there's tech house, there's like all these subgenres. But yeah, like funk and jazz is typically associated with house, and techno is faster. So it's like doom, 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 doom. Or maybe not that fast, but it has a faster beat and a faster tempo. And it's also very synth oriented. So there's a lot of synthesizers going on, making like all these like cool trippy sounds and stuff, and it just has a different feel. It's harder and edgier. Where house is more kind of laid back and just like, you know, in your convertible, you got the top down, you just want to like something to groove with, right? And techno is just very like in your face.
There's a music movement out of the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called go-go. Have you heard of this type of music?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well,
I'm curious.
You know, that's I actually got acquainted with it when I was in college. I went to school at Florida A&M University for my undergrad, and met a lot of DC, Maryland, Virginia folks, and got to hear some go-go. So, you know, I'm not an expert, but I got to hear it. So I was just trying to see where you kind of fit that in the spectrum. But, you know, once again, I'm not an expert, but you should check it out. You should check it out for sure.
I will. I'm making a note. Go music.
All right.
Second. Well, thanks for the tip.
Hey, yeah, no worries. I kind of wanted to transition a little bit. We'll go back and forth for sure, but ask you and talk to you about, you know, how you got into blockchain and cryptocurrencies. You know, you're right. We kind of go back a few years when it comes to this, and we've had a chance to work together. But how did you get into all this?
I got into it by just basically hearing about, you know, I kept hearing all these stories about Bitcoin. We were talking about Bitcoin. Oh, the price, you know, it's a digital currency, blah, blah, blah. And so I kind of ignored it for, you know, the first year and a half. I thought about purchasing, but didn't really jump on it. And then finally, when things like it started making more headlines and news, I'm like, okay, let me take some time and like look into this and see what it's all about. And I think around 2016 is when I started, you know, buying a little Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then 2017, you know, all the altcoins came along, and I definitely jumped in on that, started researching, really understanding the technology behind it. Because up until then, I didn't really spend a whole lot of time understanding what it was about. But then with all the altcoins, I'm like, okay. So, you know, it's, you know, I consider myself a technologist in the sense that, you know, career-wise, I've always been and mostly in the customer service, customer success business, running tech organizations or customer service organizations for tech companies. That's what I've done historically for like the last 20 years. That's how I, you know, make the most of my money. And so I was like interested in how that the blockchain industry would affect that industry. And so I started, you know, looking for companies that were, you know, kind of delving into both of that. But overall, just looking at how blockchain would be used across all the different industries. And that really caught my attention because I'm like, okay, you know, back in the 90s, it's about computers and the internet. And I remember like when email came along and like how that was transformational. And now I'm like, yeah, this is going to be the next technology that's really going to make a change and a shift and how we operate. So, yeah, I always want to be on the front, you know, ahead of the game, and be a visionary and see like how, you know, how this is going to affect our futures. So, yeah, 2017 is when I started getting in. I mean, mostly as a private investor, but I did start working for a couple of companies. I worked for Minlo One that went through an ICO, and I was, you know, managing their community. And then I helped a buddy with his marketing agency called Lumini. And so we basically would come up with marketing plans for companies that had just had their ICO, and they were trying to like formulate how to explain, you know, blockchain technology or their payment platform, whatever, to the average person that doesn't really understand crypto, right? So how to put it in layman terms, like how to break down the message and you know, get that, you know, campaign out there so that people could understand. So yeah, you know, it was a fun time working with those companies. I've also more recently worked with Digital AX, which is basically a digital fashion company that's working in the crypto space as well, or in the blockchain space, which is really interesting because it's really empowering digital artists to get their work out there, and not only get their work out there, but to get compensated for it. And I didn't really understand this, but there's this whole ecosystem for digital creators to, like, they can make the fashion for the avatars in these games and in AR and VR environments. But there's also the texture for the garments that they're making, right? That's a whole nother layer and a whole nother ecosystem, just as you have with the regular fashion, where if I make a shirt, for example, I have a sewing machine, but I also have to go to a store and buy the fabric. And there's a whole ecosystem for the people that make this fabric, right? So the same thing is happening in the digital world, and it's mind blowing, and it's all tying into the metaverse, right? So this whole, the Web3 technology, which will merge our physical reality with AR and VR, it all ties into that. There's tons of content that needs to be developed to tie this all in, which means there's tons of creators that can figure out how to get plugged into that and get compensated for it. So it's really, really exciting times.
It is, and I feel like I do this not every week, but almost every week, where, I ask guests about different terms. We've already done this kind of earlier with some of the musical terms, but, one thing obviously that's really big right now is NFTs. So could you give your definition or your description of what an NFT is?
So it's a non-fungible token, but basically that means that it's unique and it can't be replaced, right? So, there's several things that you can trade. Like, for example, Bitcoin. That's fungible. That's not non-fungible. Like, you can trade one Bitcoin for another Bitcoin, but with an NFT, you can't do that. You have something that's unique, that only the purchaser of the NFT has. That's my layman term definition.
Yeah, and the reason why I do this, and sure, maybe people watch these and they're like wondering, why do you keep asking people to describe what an NFT is or what, blockchain is or whatever? It's because this is how I got in. And I think that's kind of sounds like this is how you got in. You kept hearing about Bitcoin. You were wondering, well, what is it? And you did your own research. You fell into the proverbial rabbit hole, right? And so I'm really just trying to not push this on people, but make it so you hear about these terms more, you can understand them better. So when you see them or you have conversations, you have something to add. And, that's my whole thing. And maybe it piques people's interest to learn more. Or it at least brings people to a decision like, that's not my thing. So at least it's the exposure. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times in our community, we don't even get the exposure, let alone the opportunity. So this is, once again, the opportunity to kind of make it simple and plain for people. And if you want to go deeper, you can do that. But if not, at least you know what it is and somebody, told you. So that's my aside on that. But man, NFTs are so interesting right now. What you described with fashion, bringing fashion into the metaverse and creating those and making those into NFTs are that's a pretty awesome thing as well. Where do you see, you have a really great experience with NFTs. Where do you see this really going in the next, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, good question. I see it in terms with music in particular, in the music industry. I definitely see it having a major part in kind of empowering the artist to cut out the middleman, and giving them more proceeds and direct control over how they can get royalties, how they can set up their own contracts. I mean, we've seen time and time again over the years of how these record labels have monopolized the industry, and they control the artist, and they basically take advantage of the artist. And, you know, I mean, it started with labels and record releases and CD releases. And now with streaming, it's like you can spend all this money and time as an artist to come up with a killer track, a killer album, and you're getting tons of plays and streams on Spotify or Pandora or what have you. And the compensation you get from that isn't really representative or worth the time that you've put, the time and energy and the money that you put up front to do that. I mean, the artists these days aren't making money from streaming. They're making money from live performances, from concerts. And what you have to do in order to get to that level where you can like perform at a concert is, you know, you have to basically be in bed with these record labels, right? And then these PR and organizations and everything. So it's really difficult for artists. I mean, you have to be committed, and it's a long game. You have to be committed. And so with the NFTs, it's going to empower. It already is empowering artists to really work on their art and put it on a platform, and get compensated for it. You know, and there's still, it's, you know, it's not just that easy. Like you can't, I think artists are figuring that out now, myself included. Like I released an NFT, but you know, I didn't make millions of dollars from it, right? And so there's a process, right? It's not everybody that's just gonna put music up is gonna automatically, you know, reap these huge rewards. But with that said, you know, taking the middleman out definitely has advantages, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the coming years.
You're absolutely right, and I mean that's the great thing about blockchain. The great thing about cryptocurrencies is if we want to now remove those intermediaries and those middle people, we can do it. You know, but sometimes we don't, and we don't have to. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of people are very much purists on that whole peer-to-peer side, you know, and to a certain extent, don't get me wrong, it's great. And my argument is, hey, if you can do this to bring more transparency, more equity, then yes, peer-to-peer is the way to do it. But sometimes from an ease of use standpoint, you know, strictly peer-to-peer is not, it's not the most feasible. But we're getting there. The technology is getting there, and we're able to do more. But you know, I'm pretty excited about NFTs. Obviously, audio and video NFTs are going to be things that musical artists and visual artists obviously can rely on, like you said, to bring in more revenue and be able to engage with their fan bases better. So, you know, it's, if you're an artist right now, once again, now is a great time to really get involved with this technology to create your NFTs, find a marketplace that works for you, and, you know, just keep working at it, you know. And to me, it seems like the artists who are the ones that will be the first to kind of really get on top of how NFTs work and how to distribute and market them, those are the ones who are going to do the best. And I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of the test of time. So I think we got a question here. This is actually from my sister, Andrea. So she's saying fashion and music. That sounds kind of like an empowering tool all the way around. Marketing engines and other places that the money flow in your direction. Would you agree? Please discuss. I don't know if I actually even read that properly, but you see the comment just like I do. What are your thoughts on this?
Marketing engines is the other piece that makes the money flow in your direction. Yes, you're absolutely right, Andrea. Like marketing has always been a major factor, and it's going to continue to be a major factor. The more marketing you have, for example, like building out your social media platforms. I mean, people have to know who you are, and the only way to do that is to market yourself. And social media like, TikTok, Instagram, for musicians like SoundCloud, Mixcloud, all these platforms are designed to, to get your music out there. So yeah, any artist that, wants to succeed and do well has to invest in marketing, either doing it yourself or, finding an organization, an agency that can help you, or a combination of both.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you just also talked about the power of marketing in crypto and blockchain as well. I mean, there's a lot of really great ideas out there, but if they don't get the marketing push, and I know this firsthand, a lot of those ideas, they're not going anywhere, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
And, I guess here's another thing too about NFTs. We're starting to see like the large auction houses. They got kind of, I wouldn't say in front of NFTs, but they've inserted themselves in this whole market. What are your thoughts on the Christie's and the Sotheby's of the world doing NFT auctions now?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I'm keeping up with the news and these platforms. I didn't choose, so I told you I had one NFT release. I chose to release it through Digital X, which is not the typical platform that a lot of other artists, and it's not as well known as an NFT launch pad as some of the bigger names. But what I'm seeing is that there's tons of places for artists to release their content, and what it comes down to is, what kind of art do you have, and which one of these platforms is most beneficial to the type of art you have, as far as kind of getting you placed out there in front of people that would be interested in buying it, because that seems to be the key. Also, another determinant factor for some people, either artists or others buying the NFT art, is how energy efficient is the platform, right? Because that whole energy consumption topic keeps coming up. We're seeing it in the headlines all the time. And so, for example, Digital X releases their NFTs on Matic, which is way more energy efficient than Ethereum or Bitcoin. So, like, if you want to make a conscious decision, if that's high on your list, for a lot of people it is. I wouldn't say it's the highest on my list, but I'm very cognizant of it. So it was definitely a determining factor. Then yeah, you can go for that. But yeah, OpenSea, I think out of all of them, the ones that I've seen, I like the UI and the format of OpenSea. It seems pretty easy to use.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I'm a huge fan of the concept of NFTs, and obviously I'm more of a DeFi guy. DeFi and NFTs obviously are converging, in different ways here. So, but not to. I did have that same issue with NFTs when it comes to energy consumption and carbon emissions. But, if I have that problem, I got to look right back in the mirror at myself and say, hey, you know what? I buy Bitcoin. So it kind of doesn't stick, that argument for me, For other people who say, hey, I don't own Bitcoin. I don't own any proof of work, consensus coins out there, and I'm not making money from any of them. Maybe they can make that argument, but I can't. So, I've been called out, I guess, not necessarily as being hypocritical, but I mean, I guess there is some degree of hypocrisy if I'm saying, hey, NFTs are bad for the environment, but I still hold Bitcoin, so to me, I mean, hey, I feel like it's always good to, put those things into consideration. And at the same time, too, I've worked in sustainability, and I'm all about clean air, clean water, but I still drive a combustion engine vehicle, right?
Right.
So, like, as much as I want to sit here and say I want to strike a balance, which I do, there's obviously little things that we can do. So it's good to be aware of these things, but sometimes it's hard to advocate when, once again, I do have a Bitcoin wallet, right?
Right. Yeah, that's life. I mean, even the most green people, are doing, there's something in their life that is having a negative impact on their carbon footprint is, I mean, not all of your lifestyles and decisions can have the best effect on the environment, but it's the thought that counts as well, right? And when you have that intention of being conscious about it, I think that definitely has a positive effect, because you're going to talk about that, you're going to relay these intentions to other people that you interact with, and just that in itself has a positive effect on making change. Change just doesn't happen overnight, right? Like, I love meat, for example. I also recognize how the meat production contributes to the CO2, right? Has that impacted my diet? A little bit, but not much. But I'm open to it, right? Like, hopefully at some point, humanity is going to come to figure out some kind of solution for this. And I don't know if reducing meat is the answer, or if it's a combination of that and electric cars, and I don't know. Maybe there's technology that's going to clean up the air and we don't have to worry about it, right? Like, who knows? But just being conscious, I think, and wanting to have some kind of effect, that's where we can start. We got to start there, right?
Yeah, got to start somewhere. 100%.
Got to start somewhere.
All right. Well, I want to kind of go back to music. The music industry had a tough year last year. I mean, I don't know if the music industry is quite emerging out of that tough spot, but how did COVID-19 affect you as a DJ who, you did a lot of live shows? How did that affect your ability to perform and create music?
Yeah, so the effect there was basically everything shifted to online. So I was doing, a lot of live stream events, and these events really didn't pay. So from a financial standpoint, it definitely impacted me negatively, as did many artists. With the live streams you'd put up, please, donate what you can, and there was definitely some generous people out there, so that was good. But it's a different experience DJing on a live stream versus in a club, because you can't really feel the energy of the people like that. I mean, that's real. It's almost tangible when you're doing that. Versus online, it's a different experience, but it's still fun. I had a great time doing it, and I even now, if there's a live stream opportunity, I'll do it. Like, I don't mind at all. It's just it's another channel, it's another avenue of reaching your fans, and not everybody can or wants to go out to the club. There's tons of people that are now used to working at home, even though that offices are opening back up, but they're working at home and they're just not going out. It's just easy to pull up Twitch or something and just tune in, and you have these home studios or theater systems and stuff, or you can kind of simulate the club environment at home. Not a bad experience. So you just got to kind of roll with the punches. Nobody
right.
could.
Go ahead.
And I'm just gonna the pandemic happened, so you just roll with the punches. I also shifted more energy on production too. So I was getting to know my software. I bought some hardware synths and spent the time learning those and writing new music. So I've been, I released a couple songs and I'm still working on actually forming a record label. We're trying to launch a record label with a couple friends, and so I'll have an avenue for putting my music out there through the label. So that'd be cool.
Awesome. Audio NFTs coming?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Right.
you know, so this is a venture with two buddies, so the three of us, and it's been an interesting conversation getting everybody on the same page. Like, we all love music, we all love DJing, we all love. I'm probably the most experienced when it comes to production, but getting us all on the same page as far as NFTs and like, should we leverage NFTs as a release mechanism for our record label? Like, there's been varying opinions on that, but we don't have to solve that right now. I think the first thing is just actually getting it off the ground. So that's what we're focusing on for now. Don't want to put the horse before the cart. Or the cart before the horse.
Definitely. I mean, hey, that sounds pretty exciting. Make sure to reach out to me when that happens, and when you got new music too. You know, I'm perusing your SoundCloud page, and I'm liking what I'm hearing. You know,
awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, and of course your SoundCloud is on the screen, so you guys need to check out Jay Kind's SoundCloud as well. But yeah. You know, I kind of wanted to go back to the news really quick here. I think something that we're starting to see, obviously, in the news are these partnerships, mainly happening in sports, and with these blockchain companies that are partnering with various sports outfits. Did you see the UFC story from this week?
You know what? You said that earlier, and that's the first I've heard. I missed that one. I completely missed that one. And I kind of pride myself in keeping up with the news. Ask my girlfriend.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a conversation your girlfriend and my wife could have, and I'm sure they could go on for quite some time on that one.
Totally.
But you know, this is, I don't know if this is good or if this is cool. I mean, obviously the UFC deal was $175 million partnership deal, and that's obviously huge. That makes Crypto.com their largest sponsor at this point, which is it's pretty noteworthy. You know, obviously the Boston Celtics and the Portland Trail Blazers, they have their own separate partnerships that are going on. And to me, it made sense with the NBA, with NBA Top Shot, right? Because it brought together so many people who are basketball fans, and then it introduces basketball fans to the concept of NFTs. And obviously Top Shot was wildly popular, and it got people who are NBA and basketball enthusiasts. I guess it may have been their entrance into crypto and into NFTs. Obviously, Crypto.com, you know, they're a large player in crypto. You know, and to see this with the the UFC, I still believe is maybe the fastest growing sport, or mixed martial arts being the fastest growing sport in the world. I mean, this really will do a lot, I think, for adoption. So what are your thoughts on that story?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I like to see a major organization like that kind of giving more validity and credence to the crypto space. So I think that's huge. I think most people, even if they have limited knowledge of the crypto space, have heard of crypto.com. And so the merging of these two organizations in a partnership, I think it's great. It's good for the space. And the sports industry jumping into this NFT space, I think is perfect, because, I'm not sure what you were like as a kid, but I had tons of baseball cards, all kinds of like collectible cards, not just baseball, like football. I don't know, like I had some GI Joe. I had comic books, like everything. And so the whole thing about collectibles is not new to me, right? And so now we have digital collectibles in this NFT space, and it's totally relevant, and it makes complete sense for these sports organizations to be involved. So yeah, UFC, like, it's super popular. I don't follow it all the time, but I'm aware of the major fighters, and yeah, I'm happy that if they can have these partnerships and get recognized for it and make some money. That's great.
Well, that's very interesting, and I'm not as big as a fan as I used to be, but there's a whole thing about fighter pay, and if you have a what is this? A 9-figure partnership. That's got to trickle down to the fighters somehow. Once again, these guys, for our entertainment, get their faces bashed in. So if it's not trickling down to them, then I don't know. It's definitely a raw deal for the fighters. I mean, and when is that whole parity going to change? Especially most of the fighters, it seems, have the biggest gripe with the UFC. And, I guess long story short, where I'm going with this is, hey, they need to pay John Jones his money so he can fight. So that's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah. So I'm not totally familiar with the terms of how this is, but yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. Like the fighters need to be, recognized, and those proceeds need to go to them. So hopefully the organization isn't like taking it all and they're not getting anything or very little, right? But that's the power of the NFT, is to have the smart contracts in a way where it's transparent.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of cool things that they can do. Crypto.com has an NFT marketplace. So there you go. That just makes sense, right? There's a lot of stuff that they can do with it, and I don't want to sit here and speculate too much on that.
Right.
But I heard that the fighters are all going to get a metal Visa debit card with absolutely nothing on it.
Huh. Okay.
That was actually a bad joke, but that's a bad joke, right?
Yeah,
because I don't know how many of those advertisements you see about this metal debit card. I was like, can they stop sending those to me? Between that and the car vehicle warranty calls I get, I just want it to stop.
Those guys are annoying. Seriously, those guys are annoying. Like, stop calling me so much. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Well, to kind of wrap things up on this note, Jay Kind, please tell everybody where they can find you outside of your SoundCloud, maybe some of your upcoming music and what you have out now.
Okay, will do. I'm on Mixcloud, so mixcloud.com/jkind. You can go to me there, but I keep Jay Kind updated the most, so that's where you need to go. The Spotify link is live as well. I don't know if you want to put that out there, if there's a way I can send that out after this. But yeah.
Yeah, send it to me, and I will make sure that it will go out in some of the pointing people to the show. So awesome.
Yeah. So right now, I didn't tell you, but I'm down in Baja, Mexico. Kind of taking a little time off, so I don't have any shows scheduled for the next month or so, but that's going to change. I'll be booking some stuff up in the Bay starting end of August, September, October. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to say, you are quite the world traveler. Your Instagram is it's going up there with National Geographic, man. You're all over the globe.
Absolutely, man. Got to see the world.
I agree. Well, hey, thanks again for joining our show, Jay Kine. I'm looking forward to checking out some more of your music, and can't wait for you to get back. Invite me to an upcoming show. That'd be great. And in the meantime, everybody out there, enjoy your weekend, stay safe, and keep your eye on all the news coming out of blackusa.news. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.